Yo, what is going on, everybody? It's Brave Cat here once again with another Frontier Signals update. So we've finally been seeing a nice little quiet period here with the space weather. So I've got some other things to go through for today. Doesn't look like we should be getting any more sunspots happening in the near future. So looking at the far side, we've got a couple of potential regions that are still, at least a week away. And all the current sunspots are making their way back. So we take a look at the magnetogram here really quick. We're already pretty much completely outside of most Earth-directed flare potential. So, there is some potential still there, but nothing is staring right at us. And everything is just making its way off screen. So, yeah, we figured that the very beginning of April was going to be a little bit chaotic, and things could have been much worse. So pretty happy with how this little cycle has gone. And comet maps again got pretty much completely vaporized. There's really not much left. I don't even know if the nucleus actually survived. Looking back on some other posts people have made, so that's that's all done and said. We take a look at the tremor map here, where once again we do see quite a number of slow slip events. So there has been periods in the past, years ago when I looked at this, where we got hundreds every day. So it's not like this immediately is spelling any sort of danger right now for the West Coast, but it is still something to keep an eye on with all of the ongoing events here and whatever else we see going on. So over in the West Pacific, we see a lot of the previous rounds of pressure kind of resolving themselves in these areas here. A lot of the midpoints are getting struck by similar earthquakes. We had the 5 here in Australia, but we haven't had anything really going on since then. Going over here into Europe here, it seems like the pressure is kind of moving its way in here from the rest of the plate. So let's see, is that another 5? No, that's the same 5. So this feed is a little bit different. It's not a 7-day feed, so this date scroller is a little bit inaccurate. It's the last, I believe, like 100 earthquakes or something. But so we still got the ongoing swarm here in Greece. And it looks like there is a 4 in the midst, but nothing larger. That activity is creeping into Italy a little bit more, so there's still some more activity coming out of there, and I'll go over that a little bit more in depth, because down here, this is where the Etna volcano is, and there is a swarm of pressure that is going on there, and it seems like it could be volcanically related. And the volcano down here in particular has been somewhat active, so it's not too much of a surprise. We don't see anything like that happening over near Naples or Vanuatu. No, that's not right. Mount Vesuvius. So there's not the same activity going on there. But that is, I guess I'll just show that really quickly here. So where is it? So we go here, we have Mount Etna down here. And we have a new 3 along with several other earthquakes. All of these are about 27 kilometers deep, so something is going on down here. And it is a pretty likely chance that this is going on inside one of the magma chambers below this volcano. So that is, probably the most significant potential volcanic-related seismic activity we've seen in a minute. Nothing too crazy, but just, again, something to keep an eye on. Over here, where Campi Flegrei and Mount Vesuvius is, we've just had the regular, extremely tiny tremors that are mostly pretty shallow here. So pretty much business as usual there. So going back to here, we do have a new, very deep earthquake over here in South America. So this is a deep earthquake location marked by the letter D. But usually most of the deep earthquakes in this area aren't really tremendously deep, usually like 1 to 300 kilometers. So this is, a kind of depth that you usually see over here in Fiji. So that is something that could result in further activity in this region. And again, we are going to be expecting, potential for something bigger to happen on this side of the Pacific. So, I can't really pinpoint exactly where that's going to happen. But, we can also kind of look at the quiet zones. So Kamchatka has actually been pretty quiet these last several days. It's only been a 5 and a couple 4s over here. So we could see another round of action going on over here with everything else that's happening. And, the Canada feed, that's always kind of hard to spot those things because, the Canada feed doesn't really like to play along with the regular format that the rest of these agencies use. And then, this area here near the Virgin Islands, I could easily see something going on there a little bit bigger because of how much swarming has been going on. But other than that, things are looking relatively good. I've got quite a few papers that I plan on adding to the website. So, many of these come from ones that Ben Davidson has covered. And, I kind of pick and choose, I guess, the ones that seem the most relevant to what is going on and relating things geomagnetically. So we've got a paper here relating strong earthquakes induced by variations in the magnetic field. So that's a pretty good one. Some of these are more recent, some of them are a little bit older, and there's, at least a dozen more that I just kind of have sitting in a text file waiting to go somewhere. And there is some fixing that I got to do. It seems like, last time I checked, pretty much all the AGU pubs PDF viewers just kind of stopped working. Let me see, I think this one has it. No. So let's see. Yeah, so it looks like something is being blocked going through to the AGU pubs PDFs here. So, I'm going to figure out what's the deal with that. Perhaps I could just get the downloaded files into the web page itself, so there's no issue there. But again, I got to kind of double check to make sure that that's all, kosher or whatever. This is a non-commercial kind of repository style website. So, and there's disclaimers and credit where credit's due, all the relative citations. So it shouldn't be an issue to just directly put the actual PDF files into the web server. But, I'll see about that. So again, there's quite a few to add here. So we have a couple of them relating to the galactic magnetic field, which, especially once I get this final historical catastrophism paper done, the galactic scale of things really kind of pieces together a lot of the cycles that happen on Earth. We got another one here, galactic geomagnetic orbital forcing hierarchy. Some of these I don't exactly know what's going on, but I try to, fully read the abstract or the plain language summary to get an idea if this is something that is actually relevant for, the things that we're looking at here. So then we've got this paper, which is one of many, that is basically, more or less debunking man-made climate change. Let's see, so moving on here, we have another climate paper. So this one is relating climate anomalies to X-class flares, also pretty important. And then some other earthquake-related ones. Definitely, I like seeing these. So, things to do with the ionosphere. And we have a couple of papers relating to that. And, again, there's many more. So, volcanic-wise, not much has really been going on out of the ordinary, besides, what I potentially mentioned going on over here in Italy. Again, not too big of a deal, but definitely, when you see seismic activity like this, that is somewhat deep and near these volcanoes, that's, one of the easiest signs to, see if there's going to be anything potentially coming from that. So really lastly here, we've got a really awesome tool built by Zacharias. So I'll have a link in the description for that, and eventually, hopefully, have the link on the website as well. So it looks like he's been quite busy. He mostly has been doing research in the Chandler Wobble, which relates to, you know, the pole location and, you know, the natural movements that the Earth does throughout the seasons, throughout the years. So there's definitely been a lot of anomalies happening regarding those things, and he has all sorts of tools and charts here. You know, again, most of which I'm not very familiar with, but hopefully I'll be able to get to know these a little bit better here. There's all sorts of different charts and things related to these aspects here, where, you know, in the last 10, especially the last 10, 15 years, we've seen some pretty drastic changes at a, you know, planetary scale. So, you know, really cool stuff here. I'm pretty impressed with this website. And, you know, it's just another awesome tool to look at for a lot of researchers and, you know, all that stuff. So that's pretty awesome. And yeah, I think that'll pretty much do it for today's update. You know, things have been a little bit busy today. Happy Easter Sunday to everyone. But with that, I will wrap things up there. So I hope y'all enjoyed, got something out of it. Please like and subscribe for more. Share this video if you dare. And as always, I will catch you all in the next.